Hello and welcome to another Big Innings. I'm Aaman Patel, of course, joined by Nate Hayes, and we have so much to break down in today's Major League Cricket match between the Texas Super Kings and MI New York. First things first, this one appeared on CBS Sports, which is pretty awesome to get into an American audience. First steps in the right direction, if you ask me. I think that's a really good sign for cricket in the USA. But we also had a firecracker of a match today, Nate.
Unbelievable game. We finally had a really good game.
Yeah.
And I think, we also saw another Conway good innings to start the game for the Super Kings. So we've seen back-to-back games where an opener clicked, finally.
Yep.
It was a while before we saw that.
Yeah, absolutely. Texas Super Kings, they won the toss, selected the bat, which most teams have been doing in this tournament. And yes, Devin Conway showed his class and showed why he is arguably right now the best opener in the competition, if not the entire world, scoring 74 off 55. And it's a little different to a Devin Conway's innings that you see in the IPL, where he's more runs ablazing. Here, he's going to take his time. He's going to see it through. And he said in the post-game interview that was kind of the message, was they're going to see the game out a little bit more up top. He's doing that and then accelerating later. Really impressive to see what he's been doing. And it really helped the Texas Super Kings get off to a start. But other than that, not a lot of big batting performances. Faf, only 8 runs for him. But we had some new additions into the team today, Nate.
Sure. Yeah, we had Cody Chetty for the first time in place of Lihir Malanta. And, that's an interesting move right there. And that goes to show that maybe Lihir has kind of like started a little bit too slow for them. As we know, he's fantastic.
He's fantastic. But I think there's a little bit of chance that's also being offered as they head into the second leg of the tournament.
Sure. And Lihir also is a wicketkeeper. We admire him a lot. Yeah. He didn't look tremendous in the field, though, the last game. Yeah. So we get to see Cody Chetty in the mix, and we also lost Calvin Savage.
Yeah, Calvin Savage out of the 11. Daniel Sams comes into the 11 for Gerald Coetzee, and Ziel Huck comes in for Calvin Savage. So it looks like they're trying out all their different options. I think this is a smart tactic for Texas. All these options are good options. I don't think there's anything bad about any of the 6 people we just named.
Sure.
I think it's just about, okay, let's try some different combinations here, see which guys give us the best opportunity to win. And they're just looking to see, okay, as we head into, they're a team that's staged to be in the finals weekend. You're expecting, okay, what combinations do we have? Who are our backups for certain situations?
Right.
And I thought, again, with the bat will start, they didn't quite get the runs, right? I think David Miller, 17 off 15 was fine. Mitchell Sander had another one of his explosive innings, if you would say, 27 of 13.
That was a good innings for him.
It was a good innings for Sander. I think Sander's been really good down the order.
He's been very good. He accelerated a lot more today.
Yes.
But yeah, you can count on him, it seems to be, for mid-20s, which is good for his role.
Which is exactly what his role is. But Texas only managed a score of 154, which is not a crazy total, but we know it's a winnable total here. It's a defendable total here at Grand Prairie Stadium. And with the ball in hand, Isan Adil opening the bowling for New York today, which was cool to see. Didn't have his greatest of nights, though.
Sure.
But you had 2 wickets for Bolt and Rabada again, which seems to just be a habit, 2 wickets a game for those two.
Right.
Rashid Khan, get to see our first look at him. Wow, is he fun to watch in person.
Yes, unfortunately, that meant Nosh Kanjigi was a little bit redundant. So they didn't include him in the team. That's unfortunate considering how well he played yesterday. Yeah. He was on the front page of ESPN Cricket Info.
That was awesome to see that headline, right?
Awesome to see his mouth open
your question
wide.
that they quoted too.
Oh, yeah.
How about that little Nate shout out?
That's pretty good. Yeah, so it was unfortunate to see him missing from the team, but how can you cut out Rashid Khan?
No, you can't cut out Rashid Khan. And the reason you cut out Nosh there, for those of you who you haven't really seen the 11 makeup, is that because Rashid Khan comes in, that's another overseas. Now your overseas options to cut. Kyron Pollard's not going, he's the captain. Tim David's been your best player. You're not going to cut Rabada, but we just said they've been taking 2 wickets a game. And Nicholas Pudan's your wicketkeeper. So that leaves DeWald Brevis, an opening batter.
Yeah.
So you leave out Nosh in the hopes to bring in one of your domestics, and they brought back in Steven Taylor, which was good to see. We like to see Steven back in the team. But the batting just didn't go the way for New York. Moning Patel, 0 off 2. Now, that was an absolute screamer of a delivery. An absolute peach. But he never looked in real flow. And Steven Taylor, He was in the middle for quite some time, which was good for New York.
Right.
But 15 off 21 just isn't going to cut in this competition.
It's not going to cut it. He'll probably enjoy some home cooking, so to speak,
Sure.
when he goes back to Morrisville, where he's been fantastic in the past. But yeah, Jahangir, I asked their coach, Robbie P., about Jahangir's innings, and he said he was very proud of him. He thinks that will go a long way in his place in the team in the future, and the team's belief in him. And obviously, just a long way for him, more than anything else. And, he did what he was supposed to do. We've seen this is the way. Yes, it was kind of slow. He struck at 108 basically.
Right.
But at this venue right now, the way things have gone, this is how you want to approach your chase. When you have the big bats, they have it.
No, I agree, and I think that was the biggest thing hurting New York coming into the day was our top order is just failing too early.
Right.
You don't have to score all the runs.
Yes.
But you just have to be able to hang in there, see out the likes of see out the likes of their best bowlers,
Sure.
the Rusties, the Daniel Sams, whoever's coming at you. See out the likes of them. Get into the middle period when the field's a little bit more opened up, and then let the likes of Budon, Pollard, Tim David get in, where we've seen more Budon have to play that kind of run a ball role because he's in the second over.
Sure.
And that's been the biggest issue for them.
Right.
Have they completely solved it? No. But Sheon's innings today, I think it was a good step in the right direction. And also, you're going to look at the strike rates today, not a lot of huge strike rates.
Right.
It's because there's 4 sixes hit in both innings. Combined, there's 4 sixes hit. That's unheard of in a T20 cricket match. You don't get through usually 10 overs with 4 sixes being hit.
Yeah.
There were 4 sixes through 40 overs today.
Yeah, that's true. Tim David, because of the way Jahangir played his innings, Tim David was able to come in at number 5.
Yeah.
We see that he's coming in a situation more than as a number. They needed to step up the run rate there. It was interesting to see him come in ahead of Pollard, I think.
Sure.
But speaking of coming in ahead of Pollard, what about our buddy Mohammad Mohsin?
No, I think this game was in the grips. It was evenly poised. Both teams had an opportunity, and then you cut to Mohammad Mohsin's 14th over. Just takes the wicket of Shahan Jahangir, and then this delivery right here.
Yeah.
Gets Pollard trapped in front. He reviews it thinking there may be some bat. It was pad, then bat is what the umpire turned to. And once that decision was made, it was 3 reds, as plumb as you like. And that's the moment to me that Texas jumped ahead in front of this match.
Oh, that was the play of the game right there. And to see Mohammad Mohsin, a domestic, now with, I believe, 7 wickets in the tournament. He's taken at least 1 wicket every game. He took 3 or 4 in the first, 2 in this one. And they've been big wickets.
Yeah.
And this is what a leg spin bowler is for. You need to take wickets. And yes, this was the impressive thing about this to me was New York their backs weren't on the ropes.
Yeah.
A lot of times you see leg spin bowlers succeed when you have a bunch of wickets, in the power play. Yeah. And New York, it was time for them to accelerate though.
Right.
Because they managed to play pretty slow. But they had wickets in hand, and they had a lot of bats coming up. Still in the team, or at least they had Rashid Khan, Hamad Azam, and Tim David was currently in the middle. And you still see him striking on the first ball like this. It wasn't because Pollard was trying to smash him out of the ground.
No.
It was because Pollard was trying to ease in.
Ease in, yeah. And again, this is a fairy tale for Mohammad Mohsin. This is a guy who didn't get drafted.
Sure.
Had to go in the domestic wild card round.
Right.
And plays game 1, takes 4.
Right.
Here, takes 2. He's been phenomenal in the games he's played, important wickets. And you heard Faf say it, he's not afraid now to throw him the ball in the 16th over if he has to. And that's a huge stepping stone for Mohammad Mohsin. But even then, this game is still winnable, per se, for New York, right? At that point in time.
As long as Tim David's
in there. And then Daniel Sams, brilliant final over.
Unbelievable.
You need 21 runs to win if you're New York. Tim David starting on strike. First ball goes high. It looks like it's going long. And then straight into the hands. And that was the moment for me that sealed everything up.
Sure, that was the nail in the coffin, so to speak. Daniel Sams came into that over with 3 overs and 12 runs allowed. And that was with a no ball.
Yes.
So he was absolutely magical. And of course, just shut the door. And I mean, you got to think, wow, Daniel Sams has been fantastic. All he's got to do is defend 21. You got to bet on him in the game like this, where he's already he's already been stellar. But you never know what could happen with the batters that New York has in their middle to tail.
Yeah. No, for sure. And that was all she wrote for New York, and the home crowd loved it. The Texas Super Kings, they walk away. They're going to walk out of this leg of the tournament with 2 wins heading into Mooresville, so they're going to be very happy about that.
Right.
And as we look at this, New York, they're going to head up there with 2 losses. And there's a question in the comments that is rather intriguing, rather fitting from Chirag. He says, do we see another game for Steven Taylor, or does MI New York look to replace him? To me, I don't know if you can replace him. I don't know if you have the options in your depth chart to replace him.
It's the bowling that he brings to the team.
Yeah, he bowled well today.
He bowled very well today, and I think it's the bowling that he brings to the team that keeps him in the conversation.
Yes.
Even though, yeah, he didn't have a great innings in the middle. He was very disappointed in himself. You saw him come out, walk straight to the dressing room. He was quite disappointed in himself. It was nice to see something going there between him and Cheyenne. In the middle, and I thought it was only a matter of time before we'd see Steven click. Yeah. He struggled for sure.
He's definitely struggled. I thought he was starting to find some flow when he had the dab down. That's usually a sign that he's seeing the ball pretty well. That's a shot that he likes to play a lot.
Right.
And it just didn't really carry on for him. But the reason he's going to stay in this team is your opening batting options if you're New York. It's Steven Taylor, Monang Patel, Cheyenne Jahangir, and Dewald Brevis. Now to play Dewald Brevis, you're sitting Nicholas Puran, Kyron Pollard, the captain, Tim David, who's been the best bat, Rashid Khan, who is a phenomenal leggy,
which ain't gonna
happen, or Boulder Rabada. And it just doesn't seem like any of that could happen.
Yeah.
The only likely situation is Nicholas Puran.
That's the only one I would
because
consider.
Then you can have Monang keep wicket, and you can bring in a Dewald Brevis for that top order role.
Right.
And what I think you could do if you're New York, to be a little bit creative, why not send Nicholas Puran up there at 3?
Yeah, it's interesting the balance, how the balance is affected by the overseas by the 2 categories. But in this case, you're drafting your domestic players, so you have an idea when they drafted the domestic players. You have to have an idea of who your overseas were going to be. You can kind of draft for the role, but why would you? I don't understand why. I feel like the Karen Pollard Tim David combo there is almost redundant. It's I mean, obviously they're both tremendous players. Right. But when you're lacking a top order bat, it might have made more sense to bring one in. Of course, we're talking about the personality of the MI franchise.
Yes, they're very much a middle order team. They're going to win games through the middle order. You look at the Mumbai Indians, it's been the 3-headed monster that it was Kyron Pollard, Hardik Pandya, and Krunal Pandya for a long time. That was what they did. Now bringing in Tim David for those kinds of roles. So that's the way they like to play. That's what they're looking to play. And I think that it's not a bad way to play because a lot of times and Kyron Pollard said it, you're not going to win a game in the first 6 overs.
Sure.
You're setting it up for
the win later.
For the middle order to win the game later.
Yeah.
But the problem is you just don't have another option up top. And so you need, with the overseas you have, your 3 domestic top order players to click, and only one has so far.
Yeah, and so you wonder, do they keep who they have right now, the domestics they have in the team? I don't know. I mean, I think all 3, like Cheyenne, Monang, Steven Taylor, they were forced to play them because you brought in Rashid Khan. Yeah. And Cheyenne Jahangir, I think they have to feel like, okay, finally we have an answer here for this question. But it's so amazing. It's so interesting how the overseas superstar that you add to your team can kind of compound a balance issue.
Yep.
And we saw Rayudu being left out of the Texas Super Kings team, and we've discussed this. When he was left out of the Super Kings, their team actually kind of made more sense.
It did make more sense because I thought with Rayudu, it was almost a situation where you can't play a Jared Coates or Daniel Sams because you have to fill the overseas spot with Bhakti Rayudu because if he's in the squad, he's playing in this tournament. Just like the way DJ Bravo's playing this tournament.
Right, it's the marketability.
It's the marketability, and he's a fantastic player. So he was going to play, and I think that would have left them a little bit short.
Right.
I think with New York, it's a similar situation where because you bring in Rashid Khan and you didn't draft another, and to their credit, they drafted 3, and they're thinking, well, 2 of these 3 are going to fire, if not all 3.
Right.
They've only gotten 1 of the 3 to fire, and so I think they're going to need to get creative. with the options here, and they don't have any other options. They got to figure it out with these 3 guys,
right?
From the domestic standpoint.
And we had talked before the season in our coverage of the teams when we broke the teams down that at least I thought that maybe DJ Bravo and Daniel Sams would have been a redundancy playing both of them in the 11. Now today they played in the 11. They showed, gee whiz, like can you get a better death bowling pair?
Right,
than these two. It's Daniel Sams has been fantastic for a while. And DJ Bravo, he's DJ Bravo.
He's DJ Bravo. He's the champion, right? The crowd loves him.
Yeah.
I'm on the PA system, so anytime the DJ plays DJ Bravo's champion, they're always singing it. They're always loving it. It's the one song they'll sing along to no matter what we do.
Yeah.
And the classic celebration.
Celebration
is exactly what it's looking for.
And Rusty looked very good today.
He did. Again, I thought he found his length again. He was moving the ball again. That ball to Monang Patel started on off stump or just outside, hits the deck and starts just moving away. Monang's just looking to play it straight back down the ground, didn't look to do anything, catches the edge, straight back to the keeper. I thought he bowled a couple even better deliveries that just didn't catch the edge because it moved too much, and that's always a luxury. But speaking of Texas, I want to ask you now, we've seen a couple new options, right? We saw Cody Chetty in for Luhidu, we saw Daniel Sams in for Gerald Coetzee, and we saw Zia Huck in for Calvin Savage. Do you see any one of those 3 in the mainstay 11, leaving out whoever they replaced?
You know, I don't know if I would tinker with this, with what worked today.
Was what worked today?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't bring back Calvin Savage or Coetzee?
It's so hard. It's so hard. I mean, obviously we love Calvin Savage.
Yep.
But, I mean, everybody did their job today pretty well. Zia Ulhak looked tremendous. He
looked tremendous. And so they haven't used Calvin for his batting. And I think that's the one thing he has over Zia. And if you don't plan to use him as a batter, and Zia has looked really good with the ball, another left-handed option, if you will, as well, he could be a guy that I could see as a mainstay in this 11. I think the biggest question is, do you go Sams or do you go Gerald Coetzee, who's just a ball of energy and has been so good?
That's a tough one. That's a really tough one because, my gosh, I want both of them in this team.
Yeah.
You know, I really do. Coetzee has been tremendous. Daniel Sams, this is a hard thing. This is on the flip side of New York's difficult, challenging decisions to make. These are kind of good problems to have.
Because they're both playing well.
And I think, you know, the team dynamics of most teams are, okay, if I have to sit today because and we win, hey, we won the game.
Right.
You know, I think in a short tournament like this, if you got to sit and you end up winning the game, how can you complain?
Right.
You know, I think we've seen a lot from the Texas Super Kings, a lot that they have a lot of pieces that can contribute, and so I think just like New York, Nosh has to be pleased with himself yesterday. Obviously, he would have wanted to play today.
Yeah.
And him playing today would have probably given them a little bit more balance in the team. But, you know, obviously, how do you sit the best T20 cricketer in the world?
You can't sit Rashid Khan, and then do you feel comfortable enough to say we're going to take a batter out of the lineup and keep Nosh in there? So if you were to keep Nosh in there, Stephen would have sat out.
Yeah.
And so your batting lineup now loses another member, and it's already a struggling one. So it goes Shayan to Monang, then to Nicholas Budin, then Tim David comes in at 4, Pollard at 5, Azam at 6, Rashid Khan at 7. So it's not a terrible one there, but are you willing to make that move? And I think that's a conversation that also should be had because Nosh has been bowling well.
Yeah.
He provides a lot in the field. With the bat, he can give you a couple of runs at the end. And if you're not scoring the way you want to score up top, you could sit somebody and play a Nosh Kenjigan.
Yeah, and if you look at Rashid Khan's output today, 4 overs, 32 wickets, 32 runs.
32 wickets would have been unbelievable. On one match.
32 runs and one wicket. Yeah,
everything's bigger in Texas, right?
Including wickets, especially wickets. Yeah, 4 overs, 32 runs, 1 wicket. Yeah. That's solid.
It's solid.
It's solid, but I mean, does it justify leaving a bat out of the team? You know what I mean? Does it justify leaving a overseas batter out of the team when that's what ended up costing you the game? Is you just didn't have enough batting? Because I think that they should be happy with 154. It's about par. It's anyone's game. I felt like after the first innings, anyone could have won the game, and that's what you want. Yeah.
And really, through that entire match, you felt anyone could have won that game. Even going in the last over, you're like, if Tim David catches a couple of these, it could be a real fun one. So I think if you're in New York, you have to take you take this with a grain of salt. Yes, we lost.
Right.
But there are a lot of pieces here.
Sure.
There's one combination we got to figure out.
Yeah, and this is to me the advantage that the non-IPL franchise teams have over the IPL franchise teams. We mentioned Rayudu. He would have been in the team.
Right.
We talk about Rashid Khan here. He's going to be in the team. And you have to plan everything around your stars when you're an IPL team, I think. And the fans are expecting to see certain players. Yeah. Now, this tournament is such a close tournament that those decisions, they ripple through and they have consequences.
Yeah.
So I think this is a little bit of an advantage that maybe San Francisco has, that maybe Seattle and Washington have. Is they don't necessarily have, obviously they have a couple of stars in the teams. They have stars in the teams.
Right, but they're not tied down.
But they're not tied down
to
a face of the franchise. Because the franchise is brand new.
Right.
They can create their own face this time.
Sure.
And so they can make their teams make sense. They don't have to say, well, we're playing these guys and we'll just beat them because we'll be better than them. You know, as far as our overseas. No, everyone's got to find a role.
Yeah.
And it has to make sense.
No, absolutely. Everyone has to find a role. Has to make sense. And you mentioned San Francisco. They'll be playing tomorrow against the LA Knight Riders, who are still looking to find themselves in the win column. San Francisco, of course, getting that Game 1 win, losing their second matchup. But you got to like the way San Francisco's built. I think they look really good with the way Corey Anderson's batting. Shadab Khan's been really good. I think Plunkett's been good as their third bowler. And then to have the way Carmine LaRue's bowling, and he's been healthy.
Yeah, that's got another question. What are we going to see there?
And then Harsh Ralph in there as well. So and you're waiting for the emergence of the openers, right? Of Aaron Finch, of Glenn Maxwell. Not Glenn Maxwell, but Matthew Wade. Would have been nice to have Glenn Maxwell, Matthew Wade, and Finn Allen. You're waiting for the emergence of those three guys, but you're still competing in the process there. And so it'll be an interesting matchup. And then for the Knight Riders, Jason Roy's back. So what does that mean for Riley Rousseau?
That's a big thing.
What does that mean for Riley Rousseau or Martin Gupta? Right? Who's going to sit?
Who's the odd man out there? And you think, do you take a batter out and put a batter in when batting is what you need, or do you just double down, take out a bowler? It's a tough choice because it's just a tough choice.
There's a lot of tough choices going to be made. We got some comments that we're going to try to hit here before we wrap things up. Shirag with another great question. He said a lot of players from both sides lost wicket trying to hit the ball out of the park, and is the pitch getting slower, or have the bowlers adapted to the pitch better after the first few games? Before we answer that, we apologize for any slow or delayed streams. There's just some internet problems going on right now, so if that happens to you, we do apologize, but we're trying to do our very best here at 2 a.m. We're burning that midnight oil.
It's just the way we sound.
It's just the way we sound. But anyway, back to the question from Shirag. I'm not sure the pitch is getting slower. I do think the pitch has a little bit in it for everybody. It's not one that you can just hit through the line straight away.
Right.
And I think that's the beauty of the wicket, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think so. And we have to understand here that we've played a lot of games on this pitch here, not on the same stripe. But we've played a lot of games on this square. Today was day 5, 7 games. So once we get more stadiums in Major League Cricket, 7 games in a whole season is going to be a lot for a team. I can't wait till we get to 14 game seasons.
It'd be fantastic. Also, I do think it's very, very hot. We had a heat index warning today. We've had one basically every single day.
Sure.
So the sun is baking down on these wickets.
That wicket.
It's honestly very impressive the way they've held together. There's obviously going to be a couple of areas where it's going to stop a little bit, but I don't think the pitch is playing too many tricks on the batters. It is a wicket, though, where you're not going to see batters get in and get started quickly. It's going to be where you have to spend some time in the middle. Look at the way Conway's taking his innings. Even Tim David, throughout his big knocks, has started a little bit, run a ball, and then gotten going. So that's going to be the key on these wickets. And I think the wicket's playing great because it's keeping everyone involved, keeping both teams involved, and I think that's honestly the sign of a Dave Agnew wicket, it feels like.
I agree with you. Anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
And I can't wait to get to Church Street Park so people can see that place on TV. So somebody said mention how tell the American audience about how great the experience is here. It's a great experience. It's a fantastic experience. All the facts. Thank you for that comment. Yeah, it's been phenomenal. Honestly, I had high expectations coming here, and they've been exceeded.
And I've spoken, and I think he's also asking about the American audience, how they've been interacting.
Oh,
and
tell
experiencing.
about American audience.
Right, and
I
I think
see.
maybe both ways he's asking it, but
I got it.
I think the American audience is starting to adapt. There's a lot of people here who haven't seen cricket. A lot of security guards or the DJ I'm working with.
I had a lot of great conversations.
Has never seen it, and he's like, I'm not even a sports guy. I don't like watching I go to baseball or football games just to have a cold one and people watch. But here I'm like, I'm watching because this is really interesting. So people are enjoying the cricket. I think it's really great to see that.
Yes.
And I think the more you expose the game here, people are going to enjoy it. This is a country that loves its sports.
Yep.
And if you give them the right people to explain the game and you give them the right environment, they're going to have fun.
And if you explain, I had a lot of great conversation with some of the firefighters, police officers, some of the support staff who are watching and trying to figure out what's happening. And actually, I talked to several people who said they learned the rules from John Boy Media.
Yes, fantastic.
And that's an excellent thing.
Yeah.
So John Boy is going to keep that up, and he's going to keep reaching out to the mainstream non-cricket American audience. And but I've also been shocked. I've also been surprised how many people I've seen here that are locals.
Yes,
the tremendous amount of people here that are local to here. That either come from a cricketing nation or don't come from a cricketing nation or second generation.
Right.
I'd say 90+% of the people I've met are from here.
Yeah, and that's fantastic to see. There's centers of cricket around the country. Morrisville obviously is one of them.
Yeah.
Dallas is proving to be another.
Yes.
Philly, you were up there. So there's a lot of pods of cricket fans across the country, and so that's the beautiful thing. And to see them come out and be able to support teams under the lights in a big-time tournament is unbelievable. We have one more night here in Dallas, Nate, and then we're headed back up to Morrisville. So we got one more show.
Sleep in our own bed.
Sleep in our own bed. We got one more show in here before we go back up to the East Coast. We thank you so much for joining us today. We know it was another late one, but we appreciate all of you guys tuning in, commenting, liking these, and make sure you share these out with your friends and throw them our way for the next post-game show as well.
Yeah.
So for myself, for Nate Hayes, and for Barbara Begg, who's made all this production possible, we thank you for joining us for another Big Innings.